Alright, so I try to make these videos short because I don't want to be on here talking too long and take up everybody's time. I want to honor everybody's time, but today I want to talk about operating out of necessity. When you're operating out of necessity, you're basically already losing or you're already behind the eight ball. And I say that because, especially coming from a fighting background, one reason why I like MMA is because you can switch it up. You could keep it standing, you could take it down to the ground, you could wrestle, you could do jujitsu. You have a full game plan that you can use. And I feel like boxing and things like that is one dimensional. But with that being said, I did have amateur boxing background as far and Muay Thai and things of that nature. But in MMA, you have a full range of weapons that you can use in a fight. If anybody has seen any of my fights, I like to keep the fight standing because I have a foundation in Shotokan karate that I like to stick to. But I will mix it up and I will take people down, or I will at least fake the takedown or use wrestling against the cage and things of that nature. And that's because I'm operating with all my options, all my choices. When you're operating out of necessity, your choices and your options are limited. And I say that because if you're fighting, if I'm in a fight and I'm losing, the fight is only 3 rounds and I'm losing both rounds. The necessity, my need, is to go in there and either knock the guy out or tap the guy out in order to win this fight. So my options, my choices are limited at that point in time. I'm going in there, and that's when you start seeing people throw crazy haymakers and trying to knock people out, or go for these crazy takedowns to get the person down to try to tap them out because their options are taken away from them. And I know right now I'm talking about fighting, but if you look at life choices that you make or anybody makes in life, when they're making choices out of necessity, they start to do things out of character. When you're doing things out of necessity, you start to make more mistakes than you did before. So it's hard to make the proper steps or do the right steps that you need to do when you're operating out of necessity. So it is good to try to make steps in order to not make as many mistakes. So again, when you're operating out of necessity, you're already behind the eight ball. And I started thinking about this not only because of fighting, but watching football, because it's football season. So if you relate this to football, a team may have a good run game, but if they're behind in the fourth quarter and they have to make a touchdown, then they start to do things like throw deep balls. They start doing uncharacteristic things because it's a necessity for them to score. If they're down by 4 points, there's no way they could kick a field goal to make it go into overtime. So they start to do things out of necessity, which is throwing a deep ball, which this team may not be used to doing. So again, operating out of necessity is a bad thing. And it can make you do a lot of uncharacteristic things. And I know that I'm being repetitive, but I just want people to understand not to operate out of necessity. Jobs that we take. And I know jobs nowadays are plentiful because a lot of people either couldn't work or they're out of work and things of that nature. So it's a lot of jobs out there right now. But jobs, some people take jobs out of necessity. They don't like the job. They're dealing with the job because they need a certain amount of money to sustain their bills, to sustain lifestyles that they may have had. And in that sense, change your lifestyle. You don't work at jobs that you don't like, or jobs that you can't maintain, or jobs that may be wearing you thin, or jobs that keep you away from your family out of necessity. The necessity to have that type of money coming in. So I say all that to tell you guys, don't operate out of necessity. Don't wait until your stress and anxiety gets too bogged up on you. Don't wait till the stress and anxiety gets you in the hospital where you have high blood pressure and you have to take medication and you have to change your diet. Don't wait until your stress and anxiety makes you have a nervous breakdown and you're in the hospital. What you need to do is go check out my Breathwork is the Best Work course up on udemy.com. If you're catching this on IG, The link is in my bio. If you're catching this on YouTube or Facebook, I'm gonna link it down in the comments. Breathwork is the best work. It's a stress and anxiety course. It helps you relieve the stress and anxiety in your life, because if you wait too long, then you're going to be operating out of necessity. And the necessity is going to be to keep yourself alive. You're going to be taking medication. You're going to be having frequent doctor visits. And if you don't have the health insurance for that, then you're going to have to go get a job that you don't like, that's going to stress you out even more, just to get good health insurance. So then you'll be operating out of necessity. You'll be operating in the deficit. And we don't want you operating in the deficit. I don't want you operating out of necessity. What you need to do is get a handle on things now. And honestly, it's October. It's about to be holiday season. After October is Thanksgiving. Then we go into Christmas. And then New Year's. That's always a stressful time of year. So you want to get a handle on your stress. You want to get a handle on your anxiety. You want to get a game plan together. And one of the best things to do to get a game plan together, especially for your stress and anxiety, is to go check out my course. Breathwork is the best work. It's on udemy.com. Again, if you catch this on IG, the link is in my bio. If you catch it on YouTube or Facebook, the link will be down in the comments. So make sure you go check out that course, and make sure you guys are not operating out of necessity. Operating out of necessity is the wrong thing to do. All right, you're already losing if you're operating out of necessity. Again, if you're a fighter and you go into the third round and you're trying to knock the person out, you need to win the fight. You're throwing haymakers, that leaves you open. You're doing crazy takedowns, that leaves you open as well. And the analogy about football, if it's a run team and they're down by 4 points, they'll do uncharacteristic things like throw the deep ball. And that's operating out of necessity. And we don't want to operate out of necessity. What we need to do is get ahead of the game and keep ourselves intact. So again, check out my Breathwork is the best work course. It's on udemy.com. It's all about breathwork, relieving stress and anxiety. Again, I'm gonna tell you again, if you're on IG catching this, the link is in my bio. If you catch this on Facebook or YouTube, the link will be down in the comments. I appreciate you guys.